What's going on, everyone? Welcome to the latest episode of Can I Kick It FC. This is your host, as always, Elliot Barr, and is joining me is a guy that has probably the most poppinest, the most blackest, the most accurate social media account this side of the Atlantic Ocean. Is Mr. Connor Moore, the Chicago Red Stars. How are you doing, sir?
I'm good. I'm good. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me on the show. It's been a long time coming. I think so. There's been
Well,
a few.
I mean, look, I don't know if we live in comparisons to the Cooligans, how they shouted you out. So I'm
That
just
was
saying.
that was the first time that they had ever done that. Like I wasn't even expecting that. I honestly I didn't even see it until like later that day. I'm just like scrolling through the Red Stars mentions, just to see, if anyone's getting out of pocket about how we shouted out Morgan when she got called up to that national team, and rightfully so, she did. And then I saw that I was just like, oh hell yeah, like that's. I've been acknowledged, so I had to get on my Roman Reigns mode for about 5 minutes and then carried on the rest of the day.
I mean, that's how it should be, man. Like, look, the life of a social media manager could be one of you're getting cussed out for stuff that you have nothing to do with, or you're
Yep.
getting applauded for stuff that you're like, I'm probably not going to get applauded for.
Right. In that case, it was just like, I mean, it was right there. Like the opportunity was there just to be like, oh, that Fox soccer list was very suspect, to say the least. Let me just take one last, let me take one last punch at it, and then, sure enough. But I mean, I wasn't the only one. I feel like every admin in the league was just like, you forgot like three of our players on that list. What are you doing? So.
That's how it normally goes. It's like, you forgot something. It's too late because it's already out there. You're like, commit.
Right. And in Gotham's case, it was just like, how do you forget Midge? Question mark. But I
Oh
mean,
man.
but no, it was no seeing the Cooligans post it, I was just like, well, I've done it. I've won Twitter for the day. Nobody talk to me. This is my day.
That's usually how it goes. It's like you win that one battle on Twitter. It's like, oh, it's great. I've done
Right.
it. So I want to ask you, man, like how did you come into being like the Chicago Stars like social media handler and stuff like that? I was going to say your position, right? If not, correct
hmm
me.
Yeah. So when I started, I didn't have the social media or didn't have the access to our accounts and everything, right? I was mainly in charge of the podcast that we have, my kind of podcast, which we're trying to get relaunched and everything right now. Things just got kind of topsy turvy with it with the end of the year, with
Mhm.
Sarah going on loan and then the championship run, of course. Um, so I was mainly in charge of that, writing, game previews, game recaps, things like that, which I still do. But then when a member of our front office took a job in their home state, um, my boss at the time looked at me and goes, "Hey, so I was thinking, social media is content. Your position is content coordinator. How do you feel about uh, running social media and like having the Twitter account and things like that, along with like my help and everything?" She goes, "You could say no," and I was like, "I'm not saying no." So, so that's kind of how it happened. Yeah, like when I signed on, wasn't really, I wasn't really I didn't have access to it. Like the people that you saw tweeting on that stuff wasn't really me. I didn't have access to the accounts, and I didn't send out like my first tweet with like as like I guess the admin not until about I think a couple weeks before the regular season. I think it was like we had like one or two games left in the Challenge Cup last year, and then and then I just kind of ran with it and kind of made it my own, put in my own spice in it, and here I am. Yeah,
So I have to ask a question. Like, have you ever made the mistake of tweeting something off the Red Star account? Oh, snap! I didn't mean to tweet that on this account.
knock on wood. So far, no. I think I've gotten dangerously close, and how I know I've gotten close is because I think one day I was like looking for like a tweet that I was like, oh, I'm supposed to like schedule this, where to go, and I remembered that it was like some weird glitch where if it wasn't in the scheduled tweets, it went to the drafts, and I look in the drafts and I saw like a couple tweets that was that I could definitely tell was meant to go on my actual account. and I think I was like trying to respond to somebody like in like a Twitter thread or everything like that. Probably would have been weird if I used it on my work account on the Red Stars account, but no. So far, I've not tweeted anything that I'm, I guess, not supposed to on the Red Stars account. I either catch it right at that very last second because I just like I think I like stare at my screen for like a couple seconds before I even press send,
Do
or
the judgment check, just check them like, all right, that's their count.
right,
Right. Make
like
sure
wait,
everything lines up.
exactly. Like, is the profile picture like my face or is it the big fat crest? Like, if it's anything, if it's the crest, switch now. So yeah. Thankfully, no. Thankfully, no. Everything that's up there is very much intended to be up on that account.
Well, that's good. That's good, man. You probably do a better job than me because I have made that fateful mistake of tweeting something off the River City 93 account, meant to be my person. I'm just like, I've committed to it.
Right.
To it. Like, this is what it is.
Right.
So, I mean, like, did you ever imagine you would be doing something like this? Or were you always just like, you know what? I'm going to run a team's social media accounts?
Absolutely not. I had no idea, man. Like, I went to school for journalism. I had it in my head I was going to be behind a desk or I was going to be out, doing like packages for TV broadcasts. I had it in my head that I'm broadcasting games, on TV, which is still a dream of mine. I would still very much like to be a color commentator or a play-by-play announcer, even if it's in like a limited capacity or anything like that, or sideline reporter, any of that. I had it in my mind. I was doing that. And if it wasn't that, I was writing because I would always tell people I could, for a while, like I felt like my writing, I like to write better than I could talk. I hated talking to people, which was weird because I wanted to get into broadcast journalism. But yeah, no, I did not expect to go from journalism to social media, working kind of in the content stratosphere. Like, if anything, I thought if I was going to be doing content, it'd be more of like an editor, like a video editor, because I did a little bit of that in college. They made sure like everyone knew how to. Obviously, I wasn't, I'm not a top-notch editor. I don't really know how to use like After Effects and everything. I kind of know like I know basic to like intermediate editing to a point, and that's it. So like the editing that you see on our pages from our videographer, Gretchen, who's phenomenal, and everyone else, that's what I thought I might be doing if I were to get in content, but never would have thought I would have ran social media. It kind of just fell into place. It kind of just happened, and I'm not mad at it. I think I found a very good home in like the sports social media stratosphere. So I'm not complaining about it. Like, I definitely feel versatile enough where I can bounce back and forth between the journalism things. And like I said, I still have goals to like call a game, even if it's like once, twice, a few times, whether it's, I would love for it to be in the NWSL one day in the future. But right now, sports social media, I'm loving it. I feel like this is where I was made to be, honestly.
So if one day Chicago Red Stars announcer shows up with bronchitis, you're ready to go.
I might. I might. I mean, even if our PA announcer was like out with being sick and everything, I did some PA announcing in college too. So it was just like, if they need me to go up there and be like, all right, someone else has got to run the account, or I could tweet, but I got to go up in the actual PA booth and people got to hear my dumbass voice doing the public address stuff. I'll do it. I mean, so that's kind of what I thought I'd be doing at first. But like I said, I think I found a good home in social media.
Word. So like you said before, that you started taking over that college right before the Challenge Cup. The Challenge Cup, for those who might have forgotten, because the pandemic has been going on for forever.
It's been a minute.
Yeah, it was the first sports event, men's or women's, to happen when COVID first got announced. And this is also the stem of when, racial uplift is kind of happening. Kind of everyone's, George Floyd, the protests, Black Lives Matter, things like that. How was it at those moments running a social media account, and how was it, personally seeing stuff that's happening on social media and not having to react to it personally? Because I've always wondered this dynamic.
No, that's a phenomenal question. And, people have asked me that numerous times, just like randomly, like friends have asked me that, and I'll try to give them like a very quick answer. It's like, I just try to go about it. I think for me, it was good for the 2020 Challenge Cup. Thankfully, I was part of the team, but I was in kind of like a weird contracting role. So I didn't have the social media. So I didn't have social media and everything. I was still very much kind of behind the scenes at that point. When the 2021 Challenge Cup happened, like midway through when I started to take over the social accounts, that's when it seemingly everything popped off again, version two. And it was, I think at that time, and I think even on my own like personal accounts too, you could tell that like I was still opinionated in the fact that I had something to say, but I was still very much reserved, and it was difficult to see certain people, in this space have either certain takes or to react a certain way they did. Um, but on the team account, I keep it just I just had to keep it moving. I knew what I believed in. I knew what I felt the team as an entire club from top to bottom believed in. And so I just kind of went through that. I kind of kept it going on that aspect. And when it came to, like my own account, you know, I mean, you've seen me numerous times on like my own account, Yogi, just like either just really come out hard and really kind of either, I don't want to say go after people, but I would see someone say something to either you guys or just a general take, and I'm just like, no, I'm not having this. And or even if something was going on in the news, like I'm one of the first ones kind of just tweeting my take about it, and which is like weird to me because I was like, a lot of people don't know this, but I'm very much a natural born introvert. I very much love just hanging in the shadows. But in certain cases, I learned to like stop being in the shadows, and sometimes my voice was needed. And I guarantee there's probably people out there who are just like, can he just shut up and just go back to his account and just work? Like why is this dude in the league talking all this shit? Like, but for me, it was just like it was bigger than sports. It was bigger than yes, I'm the admin, but it's like at the end of the day, like when I walk on the street, I'm not no one knows me as Connor Moore, the admin. They just see me as some miscellaneous black dude, and so all my takes came from stemming from that. And so it was difficult, but it was very I knew when to draw the line. It was like certain, like most of my takes have to come from my own account and everything like that. And then the Red Stars account just has to keep moving. And I mean, I feel like we're in 2022 now, and people probably think I'm just outspoken as hell with it, but so be it. Honestly, I kind of prefer it that way.
Yeah, I don't want to really like take a point that you said because it really like resonated with me about how you're in this role as a black man, but then you have to also be in charge of this account where you have to keep it moving. Like every day is a fresh new day. How does that work with you mentally? And I like focus on the mental side of it. Like I assume that has to be draining at some points where you're getting the reaction of, well, why can't you just focus on your job? I don't want to see your outtakes. I don't want to see this. I don't want to see that.
Yeah,
Like how does that mess with you mentally?
yeah. I gotta be honest with you, Yogi, man. Like there was many times during the 2021 season where mentally it was a grind. I remember there was a little bit of a layoff we had before games started, and I went to my boss at the time, Lindsay Goldner, one of the greatest bosses I've ever had in my lifetime, probably one of the greatest bosses I'll ever have in my lifetime. Like I went to her, I was just straight up, was just like mentally, like I'm fried. I was like, there's so much stuff going on right now. Like I'm getting mixed signals here, there, everywhere. Like I feel like I'm doing my best, but it's just like I could feel myself hitting a wall. If not, I've hit the wall, but I'm constantly plowing through said wall. So I was able to take a couple of days of like a mental break and everything like that, which was like good. All the posts were scheduled out, so nothing bad happened. But yeah, as the year went on, there's certain times when it became a grind. There were times where I tried to step away from social media, but I couldn't because something could easily break at a minute's notice, and I had to be like, oh shit, let me go retweet this. But um, it wa- it became a lot. It became a lot. There were many times where it just really became a lot, and sometimes where I'll be hanging out with friends, or it'll be a weekend where we don't have a game, and I'm like, and right away I'm like just hanging out with friends, and the first thing I tell them is, if you're gonna ask me anything about work, it's fine, it's good, I'll answer everything you want from the jump right here in the shortest terms. But going forward this weekend, no one say anything about my place of employment or the league. Like that's where my head was at a couple times. And I don't want to say they came from a place of shame. It just came from a place of protecting my peace because, I'm sure there's people out there just like, well, just focus on your job, focus on this. Like, don't worry about that. But I mean, it's difficult to do that, when there's not a whole lot of me, you know, in this sports space in general. And I was still, and I, 2021, I was still essentially a rookie in the case of working in the league. So it became a lot to balance, with all of that and like my own personal anxieties and stuff like that. But I feel like as the year went on, I know I still dealt with it, but I started to really learn a lot more about myself and know how to like handle it a little bit more. And, whether that came on leaning on, friends like you and the others, or whether it just became like my own introspection. But it definitely was a grind at times. I can't sit here and lie that it wasn't.
This should be played at high volume, preferably in a residential area.
What's good, y'all? I'm Sky.
And this is your girl, Sills.
And we are Shea Butter FC, a podcast featuring two Black women's perspectives on soccer, football, and everything in between.
Delivering content with soul and seasoning that'll moisturize your skin,
lay your edges,
and deepen your love for all things Black women. Our show and brand exists to elevate Black women and non-binary players in the women's game, as these players have been consistently neglected by our domestic leagues and U.S. soccer.
We want to expose the U.S. women's soccer, or WOSO, fan base to the talent of Black players and serve as a platform for players to share their full story.
Follow us, Shea Butter FC, on Twitter and Instagram at SBFC_podcast. And don't forget to listen, like, and subscribe to the show on your favorite platform. Peace.
Peace.
Yeah, I imagine like that grind had to be something where it was just like, because I kind of think about it like me as a teacher teaching during the whole pandemic, where it's just like, yeah, I know I'm doing it for a good reason, but the reason why I'm doing it isn't good, and it just starts to weigh on you. You start to like question everything around you. So definitely, I tip my hat to you, especially going through everything you had to go through. I want to ask you about a situation that kind of happened on social media involving myself. I'm not going to, and another admin of another soccer team. When that situation happened, and it was a slight at you because the whole birthday posting. How does that work for yourself? Seeing that the team like went out of their way to congratulate you, but then you have others in your community that took it as yourself gloating yourself. How does that weigh on you?
Yeah, I will be very honest with you. And I was very honest with a couple of the people who were involved in that. It hurt. Like, it sucked. Like, I straight up told them, like, most of my day that day was ruined. Like, I wanted nothing to do with it. Like, anyone who gave me, like, happy birthday, anything about that, like, I didn't want to hear it from anybody after that. Like, the day was kind of ruined for me. And it was weird. It was definitely a weird situation, to have, like, my boss make a celebratory post. And it was cool. And it felt good, admins breaking the fourth wall, even though admin didn't post a tweet, but the fourth wall shattered, like, surprise, it's me. Like the dude
Deadpool moment.
Right, like all this nonsense that you're seeing all year long. This random Black dude from Chicago, what's up? But no, it on a negative side, it hurt in the sense of it was just like people really feel that strongly about it. And if that's how people want to feel about, how an account is supposed to be run, about not addressing things like first person everything, I guess so be it. But the timing couldn't have been any worse, honestly. So it did affect me. It did affect me, and for like a solid week, it toyed with my head for a while. It really, really did. Now, granted, I had talked to those people who were involved. One of them like messaged me right away that night, you know, after I kind of went tit for tat with them. And then we like talked it out, hashed it out, things like that. And then, another person didn't get back to me, until like a week later. And then it was good. It's fine. And all that stuff. But it was annoying. It was hurtful. But on the positive side, it was so weird to see so many people, not only in the women's soccer space, but just in the sports social media world in general. People I had no idea who they were, people that I was unsure about who they were, like coming out, voicing support and everything like that. I just think one person said like, was like, it's funny how they tried to like tear him down, and now Connor's waking up and he has all these followers and all these supporters and now has a whole ass fan club behind him now. And I was just like, yeah, and it's weird because I don't like all that attention, but it was like nice to have a bunch of people, back me up and all of that. And so yeah, it was weird, but we move on from it. It's we go forward, and it birthed the greatest not so inside joke that is known as admin culture. So so it was a weird time. It was definitely a weird time, but I 10 out of 10 do not recommend having that ever happen again.
Yeah, no, I'd rather not. Because I think my messages were still blowing up like 2 days later. I'm like, really? Like, we're really still on this? Like, okay, all right.
Yeah, it was a time. It was definitely a time, but it was cool. I mean, in general, it turned out to be fine in the very end, thankfully. But when everything popped off, I was just kind of just like, "Are you absolutely kidding me?" So, yeah.
Facts. So kind of lighten up the mood a little bit now. I know you do a lot with the players on the team. You work very close hand to hand with them. How is it? How is your relationship working with them? And like, I'm pretty sure outside of like the coaches, you're probably one of the more trusted people when it comes to
Man, I hope I'm one of the most trusted people when it comes. I mean, that would be. I mean, first and foremost, I hope that's the case. But working with some of the players that I've worked with, I love them. I love working with them. They're great. I mean, it's fun joking around with them. The people that I obviously do the podcast with, Sarah and Zoe. I think it's just a good chemistry there. They rip on me for being a United fan. I rip on them for being Liverpool fans, but it's 2-1, so obviously I lose there. But and then yeah, you've got other players on the team. They're just, I think people forget that sometimes that these are literally just like grown ass adults just playing just like a game. Like their job is to play a game. And sometimes they're just grown ass kids sometimes too. And I think that's the fun part about it. As the year went on, and because COVID had difficulties in trying to have a whole lot of like full access to the players, like I guarantee you the access that I would have had I joined in 2019 would have been different than how it was last year, just because health regulations on all of that. But in general, yeah, I think it's great. I think it's great working with them. I mean, there's players that they'll pop up and they'll just start just screwing with me, just joking around, and it's just like friends that like haven't seen each other in a while, just screwing with each other, and it's cool. It's a fun time, and one of the things that I'm hoping for this year is that I can kind of expound upon that and really try to get to know more of the players. Last year I felt like I didn't start really knowing a lot of them and really getting comfortable with them until the back end of the year, right? Like now, with a little bit more access, with vaccinations and boosters and all of that stuff, I'm hoping it'll become a little bit more easier. And in turn, that helps me also get the fun, candid stuff that people want to see on social. Like it's all like the edited and all that stuff is phenomenal. But if I can get like 5-10 seconds of like, I don't know, like Ella Stevens or Tatum Alazzo just like singing, dancing, doing something random as hell, just candidly, and get that up, like that's gonna make it look better too. So yeah, no, working with the players is fun. It's definitely a lot of fun moments.
I imagine it has to be. I mean, because you're kind of like not controlling the narrative, but you're kind of like showing the fans and other people like, hey, this is what the team morale looks like and things like that. Well, also you being an admin and you controlling that stuff, how is it what would you say to fans that are like, I want to see more about the teams that like tweet at the counter at you or whatever? And I'm pretty sure all admins of all teams kind of deal with this. What would you say to fans when it comes to like getting to know more information or getting to know what's going on with their team?
I would say that I am like that. I want to know just as much as they do, honestly. Like first and foremost, like I definitely want to. And then also, the ebbs and flows of the season kind of always dictate the access, I would say, with how people have and how busy people are, and if there's certain things going on, whether from a team aspect or a league aspect or a player aspect, where schedules can get jumbled. So it kind of is a big game of of almost like Tetris, honestly, just trying to find the schedules and everything that fit, so we can get to know more people. I will say that is one of the biggest priorities that myself and the comm team have, is to do more fun stuff, it's to really open up that window. Like I felt like we did a good job last year, but I think we just kind of was like putting cracks in the wall. I think now we really just want to break the whole wall down and really give fans that access and the fun stuff. And we have some things in the chamber that I think are going to be really cool and really fun, that I know myself and the rest of the comm team, we're excited to do personally. Like we are, and we want to make sure that it gets done and it gets over the line and we can post it and we can show people that. So yeah. And another thing I would say is patience too. Like that's another thing I would probably tell them. So patience, but
I imagine patience is probably the golden word. Like, look,
oh
I know
yeah,
it's about as much as y'all.
Trust me, like a lot of the things that they want to see, we want to do. So it's just a matter of getting it done.
Very much true. I want to ask you this question, and I want to phrase it in the right way. When all the allegations kind of broke apart this year of all the sexual assaults and what was going on at various clubs in the league, how was that? We've heard the player's perspective, but I want to hear from you as an admin. How was that on you personally about what was going on in your context in it?
Yeah, I think for that, it was very much, I mean, anyone that I think knows me knows that I'm very much a player first person. I feel like if you're an admin and you want to get all the stuff, you have to be, but I'm very much a player first. I'm just a human person in the sense of, things like that. When it happens, you can either be on the right side or the wrong side of history, and the line is very clear between where the right and the wrong side is. It was definitely tough when everything happened, because I feel like at that point everyone, I mean, quite literally, there's a pause on the league, like there was no games that were played for a couple of days. So I think everyone really took that time to really just kind of like step back, let their emotions process, and figure out where do we go from here. And from my standpoint, one of the first things that I personally wanted to do was to, like, any chance I got to let a player or someone know that I appreciate them and everything that they do, I want to do that. And I feel like I probably could have done a better job before all of that, and definitely could still be doing a better job of that to this day. There's like a couple players that I have their numbers, and I would text them and just be like, hey, I just want to let you know that I appreciate you, everything you do, helping us out with content, to playing, to all this, just simple things like that. And I know it didn't really, and I think the cynical part of my head was just like, maybe this isn't enough. There's probably more that I can do, but I'm doing the best that I can, given where I'm at, given what my responsibilities are and the access and such that I have. So I think for me personally, it was very much just trying to make sure that I was there if anybody needed me, if a player thought they wanted to talk to me, or just to really be like, hey, like, what do you want to do when we're trying to come up with like a content idea, things like this. Like, hey, dealer's choice. Like, well, what would you like to do? Tell us what you're comfortable with. Let's run with it. And I think that was the biggest thing that I learned, because I'm like we had talked about before we started recording and even a little bit during this recording, like this wasn't the position that I ever thought I'd be in. This wasn't a world stratosphere that I ever thought I'd be in. So I'm still very much learning. But one of the biggest things that I really wanted to learn was just how to communicate better with the players and make sure that, they're comfortable with everything that we want to do and things that we want to post. And that was when everything happened the way it did, that really kind of set it in stone. It was like, okay, yeah, like I know that Connor Moore, the person, is an advocate for the players. Like without the players, I don't have this job. And regardless whether it's a job or not, these are human beings too. But definitely when it comes to like the players on our team, I just want to try to make sure that they are, that they know that I hear them and that we hear them and we don't ignore them.
Yeah, no, that's very true. And I mean, I think a lot of the work that you guys do does get kind of underappreciated because it's very easy to be sucking to say, like, am I doing this for the right reason? Like, we've had these conversations within our own spaces of, am I doing this for the right reasons? Is this coming across as genuine? You want to know those kinds of things. And obviously, to my knowledge, you're the only Black social media admin that I know of. Not saying there are others, but you're the one that I can think of when it comes either to men's or women's soccer. So even in that space, how is it navigating for you that you're in such a white dominated space?
I have thought so much about that, honestly. I've thought so much about that question. It's a question that I've asked myself, honestly. In the sense of, I don't think there's many Black admins in the league. I don't think there's many in ML. I think I want to say Sporting has a Black admin. I believe they have a few like really good Black creatives in MLS as well, and I love following them. And I think the same thing in NWSL. But I know as far as like admins are concerned, I don't think there's a whole lot of people of color in general. I mean, everyone knows Andrea Gotham. Everyone knows Duda Orlando. Everyone got a crash course in who I was this year. And there's people at the league level too, like in the league office level. But as far as like how do I think about it and how does that affect me? At first, it was awkward. I will say it was awkward because I was just like, am I under this microscope? Am I under this? Am I under that? I don't know what I'm supposed to do. Like people are really going to be nitpicking. But then it quickly turned to that. And as the year went on, and I think other circumstances really kind of was the catalyst for this change of thinking or change of thought, was I'm in this position where, I'm 26 years old. I'm a Black dude who comes from a Black dad and a Belizean mom. I run a social media account for a pro team, a premier pro team. And there's not many of me that have the ability to say that. So at the very least, let me go out here. Let me go show out. Let me do what I think I do best and show people that this is possible, and that we can hang just as much as everyone else. And I've had talks with Andrea about this, about like my own kind of like self-doubts and all of that stuff. And she's kind of helped me too, kind of realize just like, like you wouldn't be in this position if you were bad, and if people want to kind of differentiate between like, oh, well, he's like, I don't want people to think, oh, he's good for a Black admin. Like, no, I want people to look at me as like, no, he's good. He's just a damn good admin. He's he knows what he's doing. Like, and the fact that I'm Black and I can do it, and I'm shining a light on that, and I can still be an advocate for the things, that I'm very much passionate about, is, I think that means a lot to me. And it's something that I take very seriously, and it's something that I don't ever take for granted.
Man, I don't think there's any better way how to wrap up the podcast, but then with that, man, like that is a very strong and powerful statement, man. Wow.
Right now. Like I said, I've thought long and hard about that. It will just randomly pop into my head sometimes. Like I said, it went from like being almost afraid of the spotlight to now it's just like, by hook or by crook, it's on me. I might as well show out while it's on me. So,
honestly, man. Well, man, I just want to say you are doing an amazing job. You definitely deserve your flowers for what you have done and what you stand for. Anything else before we wrap up, my good man? And also, like, just if you don't, just make sure you throw in where people can reach you at on Twitter.
Yeah, I don't really know anything else that I can really say. I guess the biggest thing that I really want to say, um, is that to the support system that I have, you know, online, in the league, everywhere, they really helped me get through a very like a very weird rookie year. As I'm just calling it like the rookie year because it was my first year, but it was a very weird year. But no, everyone has just been phenomenal, and like that includes you, and the whole gang and everybody too. But yeah, no, I can't say thank you enough to all of you guys. And then just where to find me, on Twitter, just at Connor Moore _7. Currently with the Red Stars right now. So if you want to follow the team account just to see that's the weird crap that I come up with and tweet, just follow us at Chicago Red Stars. And then those are pretty much the same handles on all of the other social media accounts. But yeah, no, man, I just really appreciate you having me on. And like I said, it's been a minute. It's been a long time coming. I know 2021 was freaking hell on wheels, but glad we got this. Glad we got this done.
Yeah, man. Look, 2022 is probably going to be the same. At this point now, once you hit 30, like every year is kind of just the same. It's just like, taxes still got to get paid. It is what it is.
Right.
Like you just figure it out. But as always, listen, we want to say thank you for taking the time out of your day for listening to our show. You can follow the show on Twitter at CIKIFC. You can follow me personally at That Guy Yogi. Be easy, be safe. We'll holler at you guys next time.